Hmm? Ah!
Lord Commander.
Leave us. What did you do?
I followed him. He took the baby into the woods, the newborn.
What business is that of yours?
No, you don't understand. He's killing them, all the boys. You know.
Wildings serve crueler gods than you or I. Those boys are just as offerings.
Offerings? He's murdering his own children. He's a monster.
Many a time, that monster's been the difference between life and death for our rangers. Your uncle among them. We have other wars to fight out there. Like it or not, we need men like Craster.
I saw it. I saw something take that child.
Whatever it was, I dare say you'll see it again.
Hey everybody, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Lord Sterling, Sir Duncan the Fearsome.
And I'm Lady Kristen of House McWegglebergino.
And this is Game of Microphones, episode 55.
On this episode of our series Rewatch, we are covering Game of Thrones, Season 2, Episode 4, What is Dead May Never Die.
But rises again, harder and stronger! For anybody who's unaware, this is a spoiler-filled podcast. As we do our series Rewatch, we're covering Game of Thrones from the perspective of someone who's current on the series. So in December 2017, as we're recording, that means you've seen episodes all the way up to Season 7, Episode 7. So be prepared for spoilers.
Warning.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
All the spoilers!
Yeah, all of them. So let's jump right into it. You want to start or do you want me to start?
I would like you to start because I am putting my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Okay. My number 5 is the identity crisis of Theon. And when we're talking about the character of Theon, I think up until this point in time, his whole story arc has essentially been built around his identity crisis and having to decide whether he's a Stark or a Greyjoy or whether he's a Reek or a Theon. You know, everything is with Theon is about his identity and coming to terms with who he is and finding himself. So we get him meeting with his father and sister again in this episode, and towards the end of their discussion, you know, Theon freaks out and he's telling Balon that you abandoned me, that you left me, you let me take me away like I was a dog that you didn't want anymore, etc. And he had advised for Balon to pledge fealty to the King of the North, Robb Stark, and to join them in their effort against the Lannisters. Yara says to him, "You want your father to bow down to your other family?" And Theon replies, "I have no other family." And she says, "Don't you?" And that sort of is foreshadowing the Season 7 discussion that Jon Snow has with Theon. Remember that when they're in the throne room at Dragonstone?
Yeah. Talking,
and Theon's like, am I a Stark? Am I a Greyjoy? He can't make up his mind. And Jon tells him, you know, you're a Greyjoy and you're a Stark. You know, you're both.
And it's okay to be both.
And it's okay, and you don't have to make a choice. And just as the concept of a choice is, he brings up, and Theon's choosing between them, Yara tells him in this episode, you have to choose now. Choose immediately, because our ships are leaving with or without you. So he's being pressured to make a choice. Balon's pressuring him, Rob's pressuring him. He's got pressure from all around, and finally in season 7, he's told he doesn't have to choose. He can just be himself, be Greyjoy, be Stark, be Theon, and he finally is freed from his mental prison of reekship, as we could call it. So we get the sort of the beginning of the necessity of Theon choosing who he is in this episode and deciding between Greyjoy, Stark. We'll get that whole other dimension of identity crisis when he ends up being with Ramsay and being, having to choose between Reek and Theon, which escalates the whole identity crisis to another level, which is pretty wild. But yeah, it seems like the whole story of Theon is all about identity crisis, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because Theon was my number 3, and I called it his desire to belong. So it's kind of, I guess, the same thing. And I think that you really hit on something with that, with as far as, his identity crisis is, where do I belong in my life, right? Like, you can see that he's tortured by the fact that not only did his family give him away, but now they don't even want him back.
Yeah, he's really tortured by that. Yeah, and what does he say? Now I've come home and you shun me, or something. I can't remember the exact wording.
He said something along the lines of that. Yeah, I mean, it was just really, it was sad. Really sad. Yeah,
he's been in a tough position his whole life.
Really and he is softened because the Starks are a soft people in comparison to Pike.
They're hard, but in a different way. They're very hard. The Northerners are hard in general, having to deal with the climate and everything like that. But it's a different kind of hard. Where
they're led by honor.
Yeah, exactly. They're an honorable hard, whereas the pirate
Greyjoys have no honor.
Yeah, exactly. They're hard and ruthless, and they're not bound by any type of morality. It seems drives me crazy, just raping and pillaging and reaving, and I just ideologically cannot get down with the Ironborn. You know what I mean?
I agree. I've always had trouble with the Greyjoys and kind of their place in this world. And the one character that you think that you feel for, Theon, the minute he decides, like you're saying, to be a Greyjoy, which is this episode, from this point on, Theon completely changes.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And you hate him for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard. I mean, I feel bad for him because, I don't know. It's that sense of, I can't put a thing on it. I mean, I think that his insecurity is so valid, and it's so justified in how he is treated by his family, and his sister doesn't make it easier for him either. And you would think that with her being a woman and her having to work harder for everything that she wants and that she is and that she has accomplished, because the Greyjoys are not led by women. Women are not a part of their leadership, and yet Yara has made it that she is a leader of these people. And so you would think that everything that she's tried to overcome, in her family, in her life, how is it that she has no connection with her brother who was cast away, and he comes back and she just doesn't give a shit?
Yeah, she wanted to see who he was, and she did.
Golly.
Oh man, and that's interesting too. As masculine and misogynistic as the Greyjoys and the Ironborn society is, Balon is actually, as regressive as their cultural style is, based on the more base emotions and desires and tactics of stealing and, just dirty work. Balon is actually a fairly progressive leader, appointing Yara to a female to a position of power in the Ironborn society, and that mirrors Renly in this episode too, as he appoints Brienne to be on his Kingsguard.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, but knowing what we know about Balon, did he do that because he's progressive, or did he do that because she was it as far as the Greyjoy name goes? I mean,
I think
without
it's probably
Yara,
a bit of both.
You know, it has to go to Euron.
Right, and you're definitely right there. But from what I see, Yara seems to have proved herself, and he seems to really value her.
She's amazing. I love Yara. I mean, but I've grown to love her. I didn't like her in this season when you first
watching
meet her.
Yeah.
I mean, I can appreciate her now, knowing what I know about her, and kind of, the first watch, I didn't do all the research, and I didn't know all the history of this family. And once you dig into those layers, you realize how important this really is. This one aspect of the story is. So I can appreciate it now, given the broad scope of the Iron Islands as a whole. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to see what happens with Yara too, as she's currently being held by Euron, right?
Yeah, I think that was more out of necessity because she was pregnant during filming.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she had a baby, she was either super pregnant or had just had a baby or something Rosita-like, so.
Yeah, good for her. Congratulations. To the actress.
Not a lesbian in real life. Weird, right?
Yeah. She doesn't have the short hair either. But yeah, in terms of Theon's choice, we actually get to see the choice boil down to a decision in this episode too, as he decides between mailing a letter to Robb that would expose his father's plans and plots to take the North, or burning it.
That letter would have changed everything.
Yeah, or burning the letter and going dark side. And yeah, as you said, that letter would have changed the game entirely. I don't know if you caught everything that it said, but I wrote down what the letter says, and he says,
"Oh,
Robb."
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, "Robb, I hope this reaches you in time. My father has rejected the offer and plans to attack the North, raiding the shores and taking Deepwood Mott. Mobilize your army and make for the North before it's too late. I'll write again when I can. Theon." And sadly, he decides to burn the letter like a weakling with no conviction.
I wonder if he did that more because he didn't want to get caught. Like if somebody had caught the Raven and then it got to his dad.
It's entirely possible. Yeah, selling out his family.
Right.
Yeah, the Ironborn
it's
would
like,
not
I told
react.
you. I watched an article. I watched a video with David Benioff and DB Weiss inside the episode, and they were talking about Balon Greyjoy and how he doesn't trust Theon. And I loved hearing that because it gave me kind of another angle on Balon Greyjoy, because you just see him as this horrible human being that is rejecting his son, but at the same time he lost in Robert's rebellion. He had to give away his son, and now that prisoner is coming back asking for help from the Starks. He has every right not to trust what's being said to him. He has every right to reject it all.
And Theon's even telling him, pledge fealty to the Starks,
Yeah, right. So, when you know that he's distrustful, and you know the history, again, if you know the history of what happened in Robert's Rebellion, then you understand, okay, this guy isn't just a jerk. He's actually really, really wary of the situation and his son just reappearing after 9 years. So.
And you can tell he's even questioning his internal monologue as Theon gives that speech ranting about how he abandoned him and let him be taken away, and how he doesn't even care, and when he came back he's just being harsh to him. And there's a moment where Balon stops right in front of the camera, and he's sort of looking at the camera, or towards the camera, and you can just see the pain on his face of trying to come to grips with the situation and decide what his feelings toward Theon really are. And it's pretty good. Powerful performance, I'd say, for no dialogue in that moment, just facial expressions, and you can read a lot off it.
Absolutely. And what Theon's saying is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what
totally.
Balon Greyjoy is feeling is also right. Everybody's right.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's good writing.
Yeah, I agree.
So that wraps up my number 4, I'd say. I guess actually there's one more thing I could say was, you think that's Aeron Damphair out there baptizing Theon as he consecrates his faith to the drowned god?
Well, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think they say specifically, but I would assume it would be. Yeah. Although they may have recast him in later seasons or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it says in the synopsis his family is being ultimately reaffirms his loyalty to his family by being baptized by a drowned priest.
Okay, so they don't specify which drowned priest it is.
Yeah,
interesting.
I liked that drowned priest. He looked kind of like, the actor's name is escaping me, but he plays Bones in the new Star Trek movies.
Oh, I've never seen the Star Trek movies.
He's also in Lord of the Rings. He plays one of the brothers. I forget which one, but anyways, he looks like that actor, and I kept wondering if that was the actor, but I don't think it was.
Interesting. So what's your number 4?
Well, my number
5,
3
sorry.
was Theon, so I got to take that, which is great. But so I have my number 5 as the concept of loyalty versus honor.
Nice.
So there's a lot of it in this episode, and one of them is the Greyjoys, and we touched on that a little bit with Theon and Balon, and really, to me, it's Theon. He has this loyalty in 2 different places, but honor keeps him to try to, and he has this internal struggle of loyalty and honor, and who is he loyal to, and who does he honor,
and what defines honor? Like, what is honorable?
Right.
Does he honor his father, or does he honor the people that took care of him? What's what's the right decision?
Right. And both houses have different definitions of honor, right?
Yeah.
What they consider honor to be. I think, the Starks kind of have it, but that's just me. When you go to the very beginning and you say Jon Snow and Mormont, so as Jon is just horrified at what's going on with what Craster is doing, and he's trying to tell Mormont, he's like, listen, I don't think you understand what's going on here, buddy. And honor keeps him to tell, listen, this is what we're going to do. But, Mormont is sitting there and he's like, yeah, I know what's going on. Of course I know what's going on. But
that moment when we realize that Mormont knows too is pretty crazy. For the viewer, like, oh shit, Mormont knows about this.
Right. But I mean, he has to keep his guys alive, right?
Yeah,
his
and
loyalty to his guys.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, for a second, the viewer's questioning Mormont, like, "Oh man, is he a good guy after all?" And then he explains his position really well, and we understand where he's coming from.
Right. So you have that, and then you have, Tyrion is trying to figure out the loyalty among the small council, which I'm sure we'll talk about later because that's one of my points as well. Arya saves Jaqen and Gendry at her own great risk.
Right.
She does the honorable thing and she stays loyal to Gendry, and that was at great risk.
Sticking her neck out.
Absolutely, especially since she's supposed to be a boy. And she carries herself and talks like a girl. And
yeah, she does.
She even says, like, do you want to know about Gendry? And you can see Gendry sitting there going, what the fuck?
Like, he doesn't look scared, though. It's interesting. It's like, huh, she's got a plan, maybe? Like, he's like, huh? Like, when he looks over, like, what is going on here? It's pretty interesting.
I think, I love Gendry. I think
too.
That he's like, today might be the day I die, whatever. But cool. He's just always ready to die, I think.
How about Yoren? Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. What about Yoren?
Just like his death and actions and how epic he was. He's like Bronn's brother, I swear. If he didn't say that his brother was killed, I would have sworn Bronn was his brother.
Oh yeah.
We'll get back to Yoren later. Continue.
I hope so. Sansa is playing her game and she's sitting there and trying to feign her own loyalty to the Lannisters by, keeping herself alive. And then there's Brienne who has, who claims her loyalty to Renly, and then Catelyn, and then Sansa, and then Arya. Marjorie, she is really, really big on saying, listen, we're going to, get you through this, Renly. You're the king. I'm loyal to you. I'm going to, remain loyal to you. I don't care that you're gay. I don't care. Let's just do this thing,
Yeah, she was awesome. Wow.
And then we said Theon, and then Varys and Littlefinger, they have no honor. Well, seemingly have no honor, right?
Yeah.
But they do show that they don't have a lasting loyalty to Cersei, right? Varys is loyal to the realm, and Littlefinger's loyal to himself.
Yep.
And we learn that Pycelle is loyal to the Lannisters. So it's just, there's like this theme throughout the whole episode of loyalty and honor, and kind of what each character defines it as and what they're doing with it.
Good job. Yeah, that's a good one. And that part where Pycelle is saying, "I'm loyal to House Lannister. Everything I did was Lannister." That part. That's what I was talking about a week or two ago when we were trying to decipher who Pycelle is loyal to.
Yeah, that's actually, Pycelle is one of my points later on. So
oh, cool.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Set it for your number 5. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. It goes right into my number 4 too, which is good. Tyrion's cunning. I love season 2 with Tyrion and his machinations. Yeah, totally. So we get to see our first example of Tyrion being really, really clever in this particular episode as he plays Pycelle and Varys and Baelish in his little game, deceiving all of them as he tells of his plans to marry Myrcella off, and to each different person, Pycelle, Varys, and Baelish, he tells them a different location where he's planning to marry Myrcella off to.
So smart.
Yeah, brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. So he tells Pycelle he's marrying Myrcella off to Dorne, tells Varys he's planning to marry Myrcella off to Pike, which is just ridiculous. Like, what?
You have to know that Varys is like, okay, you're just totally shitting me at this point. This makes no sense.
I mean, he did give some fairly good logic to back it up. Like, oh, well, maybe, we can get Pike on our side, and then Balon can convince Theon to turn against the king in the north, Robb, and we can eat them from the inside alive. And so, I mean, it's fairly convincing, but right off the bat, Varys has got to be like, bullshit. I have it written in my notes. LMAO, no way Varys buys this. And then he tells Baelish that...
Sorry, I'm just imagining Varys, like, in his robes going, RFLTO.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then he tells Baelish that he's planning on marrying Myrcella to Robb and Arryn, which is also laughable considering, as Baelish points out, that Lysa Arryn just had Tyrion imprisoned and tried to throw him out the moon door. But Tyrion has a great response to this, where he says, "For men in our position, holding grudges can be an encumbrance, don't you think?" And it's like, oh wow, actually that's a good position, good point. If forget about whatever problems you have with people, you can use people who can benefit you, no matter what. Really, you got to think strategically in terms of 4D wizard chess. So that was pretty awesome, and then he continues to sweeten the pot for Baelish because he knows he's just all about himself. He has to offer him Harrenhal and all this stuff to try to get him to go along with the plan. And I love the way that they cut between these 3 scenes where he's saying, "And remember, Cersei must not know," and it like cuts to Baelish and he's like, "Cersei must not know what?" Because you think he's like concluding the conversation with Varys. Like, I just love the way that this scene was cut. Really well done.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, so then someone squeals to Cersei, and she's like, has a meltdown, and she's screaming and freaking out about Myrcella being shipped away, and she mentions Dorne, so we know it's Pycelle that's the traitor to Tyrion. And Cersei's wild, man. Like, she says to him, "You think the piece of paper father gave you keeps you safe, like the one that he'll be acting as hand until Tywin returns to the city?" Mm-hmm. Ned Stark had a piece of paper too, and she like freaks out at that moment and smashes a vase or a glass or something, and Tyrion's explaining to her like, "Listen, the North is coming down on us, the Stormlands are coming up at us. Like, everybody is coming at us. You think Myrcella's going to be safe in King's Landing if the city gets sacked? Bitch, her head will be on a spike next to yours, you know? And
yeah, totally.
And Cersei's kind of realizing that he's right, although begrudgingly, she doesn't want to admit Tyrion's right about anything, let
Ever.
alone something that would involve sending her precious children away from her. And as horrible as Cersei is, we know that she does love her children. And also, as horrible as she is, she does have a cute little loving nickname for kids, and especially Sansa, which she calls her Little Dove. I think that's a great little nickname. Kudos to George R.R. Martin for elegant language use in this whole epic. So Tyrion learns that Pycelle is the traitor, and then he's accosted by Littlefinger, who's pissed at the fake offer for Harrenhal, and eventually Littlefinger is given Harrenhal, right? So that's kind of funny.
That's true.
You know, that it's kind of he's teased with it here, and then eventually he's given Harrenhal in exchange for marrying Lysa or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. Studio edit. I just wanted to research this briefly, and I found out that Littlefinger, later this season, he travels to Harrenhal to propose an alliance between House Lannister and House Tyrell to Tywin Lannister. Littlefinger is successful in negotiating with the Tyrells, and the allied forces arrive in time to claim victory at the Battle of the Blackwater. So, because of that, Littlefinger is elevated to Lord of Harrenhal in reward for brokering the alliance. And after he's made Lord of Harrenhal, he's then essentially eligible, or at the level of being eligible to marry Lysa Arryn. So that's how that ends up happening. And now back to your show. But he ends up with Harrenhal, so that's pretty cool, although he never ends up sitting there.
Well, Harrenhal is cursed. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. Yes, thank you, Kristen. Awesome.
So you brought up Littlefinger. Did you notice that this is the first time I noticed this, that Littlefinger and Baelish are two different voices?
Oh, no, I've never noticed that. I have heard people talking about his accent before and complaining that it's inconsistent. So maybe that's an explanation for that he has a different voice for Littlefinger and for Baelish.
The first time I've ever noticed it, and we actually stopped it, rewound it, and watched it again. And basically, as Baelish, he's very clear. He's very, small council-ish, right? He's talks in that higher throat type of voice. But when he goes into Littlefinger, that's when we get the voice. Yes. It's low and raspy.
Yes.
Right?
That's
but
awesome.
It's funny because it happens here. Because right when he goes into like his Littlefinger cloak, where it's almost I would love to ask Aidan Gillian if this was on purpose, because in the last half of Littlefinger's arc, right, which ended in this last episode in season 7, he's still doing that low throaty Littlefinger voice, and then at the very end, when he's just him and he's begging for his life, he's not throaty.
Right, he's back to Baelish in that moment.
Yeah, he's
you're
Baelish,
totally right.
Begging for his life. So it's just interesting to me that I don't know if it was an actor choice. I don't know if it was an accident.
I bet it was a choice.
It's fantastic.
Yes, that's so cool. I've never heard anybody mention that before. That's a really good pull. Good pick-up on that. Wow. That's great.
But yeah, I encourage people to watch that scene and look for it. It's about 70% Baelish, and then the last 30% is Littlefinger. And you really get an idea of what and who this character is. That's
great. Awesome. I love that scene too. Tyrion is so smug when Littlefinger is like telling him, you lied about this. And he's like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. And then it's like, and you lied about Harrenhal too, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, sorry again.
Like, yeah, I did.
Tyrion is so fucking great.
As a professional liar, Baelish, you should have caught it.
Right. And I actually mentioned that too. After their first conversation when Tyrion's talking about marrying Myrcella away, Tyrion leaves the room and leaves Peter Baelish standing there, and the camera sort of goes close up to him, and you can see like a puzzled sort of look on Baelish's face, and I think he's realizing that Tyrion in that moment that Tyrion is a wild card and that he didn't see this coming. And Baelish prides himself on being able to see everybody's options and moves beforehand, and I think this caught him by surprise in multiple times. You know, the whole idea of Myrcella going and then being tricked by Tyrion, being part of a deception to weed out the traitors. You know, I think that he was repeatedly caught off guard by Tyrion here, which says something about Tyrion's capability as a strategist and as a trickster. Were you going to say something?
He also just kind of dropped into King's Landing without any circumstance or, I mean, everybody was surprised to see him.
Everybody knows of him, but nobody really knows him or what he's capable of.
And Baelish is somebody who he knows Ned Stark very well because of Catelyn. He knew Jon Arryn very well because of Lysa. So he was able to kind of be a puppeteer for the two of them for the past hands.
Right.
And this you're right. I mean, it's exactly what you said. He's a wild card and he's coming in, and Baelish is having to play catch up instead of playing chess.
Yeah,
right?
and considering how close Baelish has been to Cersei for so long, and how inept and wrong about Tyrion Cersei is, Baelish is probably completely unprepared through gossip to deal with who Tyrion actually is. He's probably gotten the wrong impression about him from Cersei talking shit about him all the time, I bet.
Such mean girl mentality.
Yeah. So Tyrion and Littlefinger have that conversation, and then Bronn comes in, and it turns out that he's located Pycelle. So Tyrion goes up to deal with Pycelle, and there was one thing here that Tyrion, when he's meeting with Littlefinger, he says he wants him to be the centerpiece of his next deception, and he wants him to play Cat to get her to release Jaime, and that works. That ends up working. So I thought that was worthy of mentioning too. That wow, Tyrion is like super pro at this. It's crazy.
Well, he's always said, "I know people. I don't know war. I don't know how to rule. I know people, and I know how people are." And that's a constant throughout the series. He does know people, and that's why he's such an effective hand.
Yeah, he frees himself from slavery, essentially, by knowing people, or from being killed. He preserves his life and Jorah's when they're taken captive, and works his way up
He's
to
like,
Queen.
You can't cut off my cock, man. You can't, okay? It's the same size as everybody else's.
It'll be a dwarf-sized cock. Think again! Great. So yeah, he finally goes in and gets Pycelle and rounds him up, and he threatens to cut his manhood off and feed it to the goats. Which is a great Shagga reference there, as he has one of the mountain men helping him out. And
he's like, "There's no goats here. We'll make do with whatever you can find, okay?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So then he decides instead to cut off Pycelle's beard, which is a huge blow to Pycelle. It's described more in the significance of it is more described in the books. But like he has this flowing mane of a beard, which is just like majestic. It's described as being just incredible, like one of the greatest
Merlin's
beards.
beard.
Yeah, and at this point he's so old that he can't really grow it very well. So Tyrion cuts it off, and it's like this lifetime effort that's been put into this magical, like wondrous beard is cut off at that moment, and it's like Pycelle is disarmed almost, essentially. And then he never like has the capability to grow it back in the same thickness, so it sort of like straggles from there on out, and it never was what it like once was. You know what I mean? Again, which is
I
pretty
think he has a
interesting.
short beard the rest of the series.
Yeah, he just can't grow it back. Yeah, it sucks to be Pycelle. Tyrion really hit him where it hurts
sucks.
there. Yeah, yeah, he earned it. And then Tyrion ends up paying the whore for her troubles, which is hilarious. Is that a golden dragon that he puts down there, and then 2 golden dragons?
Well, yeah, because it said I read somewhere where
she had to deal
Tyrion
with
saw
him.
how hard how spry he really was, and was like, you know what, I'm gonna give you one more.
Yeah, for having to deal with the nasty old spry Pycelle.
So gross.
It's brutal.
He's so gross.
Yeah, Julian Glover does a great job with him, for sure. So yeah, that was great. I thought it was awesome how Tyrion pays her a couple golden dragons, which like really hooks her up there. Then just to talk a little bit more about Tyrion if you want. He meets with Varys, and it turns out that he has helped him relocate Shay. So, like you had said, they are like really working together, and he didn't want to mess with Tyrion. Turns out that they're working together and trust each other, and they seem to be on the same page. So, good call on that. And yeah, it's interesting. Varys has a line where he says, "Should I be worried?" to Tyrion, and the small council grows smaller every day, which is pretty funny. And Is his power riddle in your top 5?
Is what?
Is Varys' riddle in your top 5?
No, because I am with Tyrion. I don't like riddles.
Okay, yeah, that's so funny. I've decided I don't like riddles.
I don't like riddles.
But yeah, it's a great riddle. There's
the rich man.
sellsword.
The rich man wins in this, right?
Well, I think the rich man in this case wins, but Varys sums it all up by saying power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow. And the shadow on the wall thing, again, plays into Plato's allegory of the cave, where the people in power are keeping you, in the certain mind state, projecting shadows on the wall to trick you into believing their version of reality. And it's just a very, very eloquent statement by Varys that plays into the reality of power, I believe.
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at my notes, and I wrote down the entire thing.
Nice.
Yeah, word for word. I really did like it, though. It makes a good point about power and about where it is and who has it. And
yeah. And just, it's all about projecting an illusion of power, essentially. Making yourself seem more powerful than you are, or whatever is, whatever your item you're using as to convey the power, essentially.
Yeah, well, it's another example of this whole theme of power anyways. I think it was Cersei and Baelish who were talking, and Cersei was demonstrating what power was in her world,
right,
and in her mind.
And power is power. And actually, this is great. I just realized too, the sellsword is deciding who has the power: the king, the priest, or the rich man. Right. So the king represents force. Right. The priest represents religion, and the rich man represents money. And as I've discussed in detail on these podcasts before, there are 3 forms of conquest. There's conquest by military force, in this case represented by the king. There's conquest by religion, in this case represented by the priest. And there's conquest by economics, in this case represented by the rich man. Right. And I've stated repeatedly that the most insidious and effective form of conquest is via economics, through inflating currencies and manipulating a central currency through fiat, essentially.
Cash is king.
Yeah, so the rich guy ended up winning this riddle, I think. But
only because he can buy off the sellsword.
Right, exactly. But my theory takes it to a whole nother level where the rich guy always wins, or the money always wins, essentially. But yeah, I just thought that's pretty cool. Those are the 3 forms of conquest right there inside this riddle. So there's a lot of elements of philosophy and stuff like encoded into this scene and this riddle. It's pretty amazing, actually.
I feel like you and I could go off on a tangent on this riddle for the next hour.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because because you're like, I could go on another level, and I'm like, so could I. Okay, we should wrap this up.
Yeah. Yeah, a whole nother level. Yeah. So
that was your number 4?
Yep, that's my number 4.
That's awesome.
Thanks. How about you?
Well, since we're talking about that, Tyrion's trust game was my number 1.
Okay.
But
awesome.
One of my points, since we're still on that subject, was Pycelle. And I don't know what it is, but for some reason, this was the first time that I caught Pycelle's revelation in his, bumbling stuff. I never like to hear him talk. So whenever he's talking, it's like glass,
Yeah.
Because I'm, taking notes for the podcast. I'm listening to Pycelle when he speaks, which I hate, but I'm listening. And
the things that Kirsten does for you guys, listeners.
Yeah, I'm telling you. He says that he knew the truth about Cersei. And he's like, I kept Cersei's secrets. He knew about the incest with Cersei.
Oh,
and he's
snap.
keeping that secret.
Whoa.
What?
Snap. I didn't even catch that.
Right. So he's saying he's loyal to the Lannisters. And with Jon Arryn knew about Cersei and her secrets. And I kept those secrets. And so we had to get rid of Jon Arryn. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit.
Right.
Pycelle knows about this huge secret. How the hell does this guy know?
That's amazing. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm screaming right now.
No, that was amazing.
And
Wow.
So he says he's loyal to the Lannisters, but Tywin doesn't know this secret. Pycelle knows something that not even Tywin Lannister knows.
Right, because Tyrion says, like, you killed Jon Arryn. He's like, no, I didn't. And he's like, well, you let him die, and you didn't nurse him back to health. You let him succumb, and he's like, I did what I did for the Lannisters. So he essentially admits in that moment, yes.
Because he knew the Queen's secrets.
Right, that's amazing.
And so, is he loyal to the Lannisters, or is he loyal to Cersei?
And putting that in perspective, too, now, when Ned was looking for the Ancestry book, Pycelle is like trying to sort of
what he was looking for.
Yeah, he's discouraging him from saying it. Oh, ponderous tome, you wouldn't be interested, and whatnot. Yeah, that's cool.
It's like this. If you're not paying attention, you're totally missing this. It's like when Sam and Gilly are reading the book, and Gilly's like, "Hey, how do you say Aegon Targaryen?" And like what?
That's so funny.
This is. How do you say annulment? And you're like, what? Wait, hang on. What just happened?
In this scene, I think we're just so distracted by how awesome Tyrion is that like we're not even paying attention to Pycelle's responses because Tyrion's accusations are just like so on point. You know what I mean? We're just like, oh damn, and we totally missed the response. At least that's like the way that it was for me, I think.
Yeah, I've seen this episode now 5 times. And my 5th time, which is when I watched it last night, was the first time that I actually said, holy shit, Pycelle knows this?
Yeah, good catch.
And my husband next to me, he looked at me, and as I'm writing it down, he goes, did you just hear that? And I'm like, yes! Oh my gosh! You heard it too!
That's great.
So yeah, that was, I guess we'll call that my number. What number are we on? 4? 3?
That was 4, yeah.
Okay,
so my number 3 is Arya and the list concept.
Yes.
Which is pretty epic. So Arya is awake as the other people that are heading north for the Night's Watch are all sleeping, and she's polishing needle, and Yoren comes in to hang out. And, that's cool because Yoren's the man, so, like, it's got to be fun. So he's like, oh, you should be sleeping, and she's like, I can't sleep. So being like the cool ass dude that he is, he offers her a drink, which is hilarious. And she's like, I don't like the way it tastes, like a little kid would say.
Yoren's like, you're a man now.
Yeah, you're a man now. Yeah. So he's like, kind of chuckles about that. He's like, drink it for the taste, little one, which is funny. And, so they go on to talk about, how Yoren sleeps. She's asking him, like, you've seen horrible shit. Look at you. You're rugged. You must have seen horrible shit. Like, how do you sleep? He basically tells her that, like, he somehow manages to sleep. And she talks about how every time she closes her eyes, she sees all those dudes, like Sansa and the king and Cersei standing up on the podium as they're about to kill Ned. Mm-hmm. And he talks about his brother, which I mentioned earlier. And so he tells her about how this guy that he would think of when he closed his eyes, which was the guy who killed his brother, Willem. And he saw him stabbed to death on his doorstep, and Willem ran off. And so every time he closed his eyes, he would see Willem's face, and he can't even remember the way his brother's face looked, which reminded me of how King Robert couldn't remember how Lyanna looked, but he could remember Rhaegar, And so much like
that
Robert,
happens.
Yeah, much like Robert, Yoren can't remember the way his brother looks, but he remembers this fucking guy, Willem, with his blue eyes and his dimpled chin and his white teeth, and like all the girls like this guy kind of guy. And so one day, like it got to the point where he would say his name every night before he went to sleep. Willem, 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 like almost like a prayer. And Arya's eyes light up, in that moment. And one day he says, Willem came back into town, and this is so badass. And I buried an axe so deep in Willem's skull that they had to bury him with it,
So awesome.
Yep, and then he steals his horse. It says Willem's horse got him to the wall, and he's been wearing black ever since. And so that's a great story, and it gives us the idea of praying to the god of death almost, to take these people, these awful people, which he did for Willem, and eventually he was reunited after countless nights of prayer, essentially, with Willem. He called out to the universe, and the universe delivered. And he
willed it to happen.
He willed it to happen, and he finally got to bury his axe into Willem's skull. And so Arya, and this is like the last conversation that Yoren and Arya ever have, essentially. They have a little moment where they're one-on-one talking with each other about deep-ass shit right before the alarm bells go off and the shit hits the fan and Yoren is killed. So this last conversation, which is an important conversation, sticks with Arya, and she remembers the idea of saying these bad people's names before bed, as she probably thinks about Yoren in the days to come, as as after he's lost. He's such a powerful and influential figure for Arya, someone who cared for her and took whisked her away to safety when nobody else knew who she was or was willing to help. And he obviously had a huge effect on her. And this is where the list comes from. Every day, every night before sleeping, from now on. The Tickler, Polliver, the Mountain, the Hound, Joffrey, Cersei. She goes with her list, and Meryn Trant, and it's a huge thing. And it sort of, it really contributes to the development of Arya's character and who she becomes. Absolutely. And what her goals are and what she decides to devote her time towards. So it's a really important moment, and we can't really understate the significance of Yoren in the story overall, I would say.
Of Arya. I agree. I actually had that as one of my notes with Yoren in respect to Arya, with her development as well. When you get and you look at Arya as a whole, Syrio starts her off with, the beginnings of her swordplay, of her dancing, right? And
right.
What do you say to the god of death? Not today, right? And then it's like she passes that level and she goes to level 2, and level 2 is Yoren, right?
Right.
And Yoren's now like, here's the revenge, and here's what I did, and let me tell you this story. And as you're saying, Duncan, a minute ago, she's now praying to the god of death. First, she was saying, no, god of death, and now she's praying to the god of death.
Right.
Let me kill these people. Right. And so next on her list is going to ultimately be going to Braavos, and next on her list will be Jaqen, and seeing how that saying the names really plays out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You say 3 names to this strange man that you saved.
Right. She could have used names from her list there, and she didn't also.
And she didn't believe it, right? I mean, who believes that crap?
Right. At first, yeah.
And so, so now she's going to level 3, right? Now she's actually talking to the god of death. So first she's saying not today, then she's saying, oh, now I pray to him, and now she's actually like making shit happen.
Right. Yeah. If not talking to the god of death directly, talking to a conduit for sure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then she learns how to become the god of death.
Yeah.
Almost,
yeah.
Right?
Basically.
Everybody needs a Jaqen in their lives.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it's so cool that, they're like this episode with Yoren, like you're saying, this is a very significant moment in Arya's story.
Yeah. Both Arya and Theon have really significant moments this episode for their development. Agree. Yeah. That's pretty wild.
I love this episode.
Yeah, me too. Really good episode. So she puts herself in the crosshairs at this point to save Gendry, like we said, as she falsely claims that Lami was Gendry and points out how much he loved that helm, that bull's head helm, which is the one defining characteristic that the Kingsguard, or not the Kingsguard, the Goldcloaks have to search for Gendry, is that he had this helm. And just instinct must have led her to use that, which is really great.
Lami was an idiot. He would have been terrible at the Night's Watch.
Oh, he would have been horrible.
My knee is hurt. You'll just have to carry me, guy who just killed everybody.
Right, and we get some great moments here, foreshadowing the future with Arya. Polliver takes a needle, then says to her as he does it. What does he say? I wrote it down.
I'm gonna pick my teeth with it.
What do we have here? That's a fine little blade. Maybe I'll pick my teeth with it, which is exactly what she says to him when she takes her blade back. And then when Polliver finds Lami, he says, "Something wrong with your leg, boy? Can you walk?" And again, she says that exact thing to Polliver right before she stabs him through the throat, like he stabbed Lami through the throat. What a dick, man, too. He even takes Lami's hand like he's about to help him up and then stabs him through the throat, uses his grip as leverage. Oh, it's fucked up.
Yeah, but kind of awesome.
Yeah, totally awesome. It's so fucked up. And Yoren, like I said, we would mention Yoren in the future too. He does not back down at all. Like, he's so badass. He is like Bronn's spiritual twin in this moment. In the name of Joffrey, in the name of King Joffrey, drop your weapons. He's like, I don't think I will. You know, just like Bronn would do, with the same type of like swagger, looking back and forth, sizing everybody up, and immediately the guy crossbows him. I'm like, fuck! Like, he's like, oh, I always hated crossbows. Takes too long to reload, as he kills the shooter, slices his throat with his sword.
He took out 5 guys before they killed him.
Really? Wow. I was like voraciously typing at my keyboard, so I didn't see this full scene. Like how many guys he took out. 5 guys? Wow, that's awesome.
5 guys, yeah.
Yeah, and eventually he's surrounded and just butchered in a horrible fashion. And I loved how he's such a strong character, and he's such a strong person that they chose to have his body stay upright, kneeling on his knees. He never even fell in death. He stayed standing tall and strong. And
I love that.
Yeah, and eventually the guy on the horseback knocks his body over, but like his strength shined through even in death, which was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was cool. That pretty much sums up my number 3 is Arya and the list and Yoren and just how badass he was.
So awesome. Ugh, so awesome.
Yeah. What do you got next?
Well, let's see. I guess this is my number 1 because we've talked about my other points along the way.
Okay, cool.
But
Perfect.
It's the women of Westeros.
Yay. That fits in with my number 2, which is the introduction of Brienne.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah,
Perfect.
I had Brienne, and then I just had this whole epiphany during this episode and during my preparation this week, and there's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of just awful, awful, awful things that happen to women in this series, and objectification and rape and just
brutalization in general.
Yeah, just in general. It's it's easy to get hung up on the mistreatment of women in this
and I
series,
feel like I know what you're going to say, that it's balanced out by really awesome, strong women.
So much more almost than it's the respect given to the strong women in this show is very much highlighted in this episode, but it also gives you, if you've seen the whole series as we have, you watch an episode like this and you're reminded of the fact that, you know what, there are some badass women in this show. And
yes,
I was able to really kind of dig into it a little bit. So
that's great.
With Brienne, we are introduced to this character, Brienne, right? Who we don't know is a woman. All we know is that she just took down the Knight of Flowers, right? Who who bested the Mountain in
combat, in the jousting
tournament, right?
Yeah.
So we know whoever this is amazing.
It's a big, mean monster who can whoop on anybody.
Right. And, the helm is removed and you see that it's a woman, right? Brienne the Beauty.
Brienne the Beauty, as Loras actually says in this episode. Great.
And so this is somebody who, again, we talked about this a little earlier. She has had to prove herself by being better. And it's such a metaphor for women in general, I think, that, personally, I am a big sports fan. I'm a huge sports fan. And I have talked to men in my past where they don't believe me. They just think because I'm a girl, I couldn't possibly know anything about sports. And so in conversation, they try to trip me up or they try to make me look like an idiot. And then I'm like, are you stupid? Or do you want to try and make me look stupid? And then they realize that. But because of that, I feel like I've had to know more because of the potential of a conversation like that. And so I feel like, I can very much identify with somebody like Brienne or Yara, right? Who they have to be better because if they're not better, they're nothing and they're disregarded. And so because of that, we get these great characters like Brienne. Brienne is better because she has had to be better.
Yep.
Yara is better because she has had to be better. And it kind of paves the way for characters like Arya. Arya is amazing. She's a warrior. We know this about her.
Even Catelyn too. She's super strong in this episode as well.
Right. She's on my list as well, right? So we also have the beginnings of Sansa, she's playing a party line right now just to get through the day.
Right.
She's showing her strength by showing her quietness. So there's quiet strength as well.
Yeah, and she plays that part really well there too. And she with those lines that it spits there.
I can't wait to marry my beloved Joffrey. Blah,
in the light
blah,
of the
blah.
Seven.
And you see Cersei's looking at her, and I feel like in that one
Cersei
moment,
knows.
Cersei felt bad.
Yeah, she could see the pain and the everything in Sansa's face for just that one moment. And yeah, that's a good call. I wrote that down too. That Cersei noticed at that moment.
With Yara, I did some research on the Greyjoys. The girls are not drowned in infancy like the boys are.
Really?
The boys are drowned and brought back to life. Girls are not. So because of that, Yara was never drowned. She was never considered to even be worthy of that. So she's had to work really hard to prove herself. And she's gotten to the point that she has all these men that look to her for leadership with 30 ships.
Yeah.
30 Greyjoy ships. That is a huge deal.
Big deal.
So you have Yara with that. And then even though she's not in the episode, you have Daenerys. And Daenerys is somebody who now is leading a Khalasar. And nobody is giving her the time of day. They think they want to chop off her blood riders' heads and feed it to her because they underestimate her.
Right. Or even Cersei, who has seemingly dispatched every enemy in her pathway at this point.
So Cersei is my outlier on this one. While she's very strong with everything that she's overcome, all of it has been self-preservation. She doesn't really have a code of honor unless it serves her.
Right.
And while she is strong, she's insane. She's crazy. And she has this strength through insanity. And because of that, she is the wild card of the women of Westeros, right?
I just had a funny thought, like Hodor with Cersei. It's like crazy, 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 curses, 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 Cersei,
So,
Cersei.
I love that. Look at you, buddy.
Curses, curses, Cersei.
Oh, that's so funny. And then lastly, you have Marjorie. And Marjorie really, you kind of get, this Marjorie's first episode, and, Marjorie is very lucky. Natalie Dormer was so lucky to get this introductory episode of this character who almost has like a full arc in this one episode,
Yeah.
She looks like she's just this woman that is blindly married to this very gay man who in the books has a rainbow guard.
Yeah, the rainbow guard. Oh my God, yeah. It's so funny. I forgot about that.
And so when she comes in and she's like, do you want me to go get my brother? She's not saying it to hurt him. She's saying it because she's like, listen, we have to make a baby. I don't care how it happens.
Yeah, because she's too legit to quit.
Right. And then when she learns that she's going to marry Joffrey, she's the same way. She's like, hey, Sansa, let's I need to be your best friend because I need to know what I'm getting into. And when she gets to Tommen, she figures out how to play him. So we see
oh my God, she's so funny. She's like, it has to happen, you know. What's it? Loras can wind the crank, and I'll make the drive. You know, like whatever.
Right, exactly. She's like, listen, I don't care. Listen, if he can, he can be doing stuff,
I'm
or
him.
you could be doing stuff to him, and I'll just make a baby. All right, I just need everything to work out the way that it works out. So
she's super badass.
This idea of these women that, even though we see a lot of awful, there is so much strength and so much honor and so much respect that's given to these really strong women in this world. And I really appreciate it as a woman, you know, as somebody who has had to overcome, you know, large and insignificant, you know, hurdles. Yeah. I just appreciate it very much.
Definitely. I have written down here that, like, in this scene when Marjorie's telling Renly, like, listen, you don't save your lives for court. You know, you're going to need them. We need honesty here. I'm trying to help. She lays out, like, what the lay of the land is and why this needs to happen and the political implications. And I have written down, like, wow, Marjorie is a player of the game. Like, she really understands the situation, how to manipulate things. Like, you know, the only way, like she needs that baby in her belly, you know, she says. And I just very impressed with her, and I've written down that she's a gem and could be like an extreme asset. And she's
her
really
and Tyrion
gorgeous
would have
too.
Been good together.
Wow, yeah. I think they would have been really good
Natalie
together.
Dormer is perfect.
Yeah,
she's beautiful.
I think that, now that you say it, I think Tyrion and Natalie Dormer may have been the ultimate power couple of Westeros.
Potential power couple.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't think of anything else that would compare. I mean, aside from Dany and Jon, which is the only competing couple potentially. With the dragons at least. Without the dragons, who knows what the score would be.
Dragons and direwolves.
The cognitive capabilities of combined forces of Tyrion and Marjorie would be pretty fearsome.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow. That's wild.
How about you? What's your next point?
My next point is the introduction of Brienne, which is awesome. We see Brienne, who's just whipping on Loras at the first scene there, and they're both in just gorgeous armor. I took note of both of their armors. Like, Brienne's helm is really cool looking. Loras's armor looks almost like blackened with age, or like tarnished, like it was like ancient armor almost. Really fantastic looking armor for both of them. Also, Renly's armor looked really cool. The way he had like the golden breastplate and like a cape sort of draped under one half and sort of over the other half of the breastplate looked really cool. He's a stylish gent, you know, as we know. And then, so yeah, Brienne pulls off the helm, and he's like, stand and remove your helm, and the crowd is shocked as we find out that this beast is a woman who's just trounced one of the greatest swordsmen in Westeros. And what kind of weapon was Loras using there? It was like a big log with a blunt ball on the end or something, like a spiked ball. It's a weird weepen. Do you notice that?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice that. I guess I thought. Did I think it was an axe?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll have to go look back and look at it. Maybe some kind of like hammer or like stick with a spiked ball or something on the end. But he's like swinging it around. It's really funny. And as she just totally knocks him down and rips his face shield up and pulls her dagger out. And he's like, I yield! I yield! Just overpowered.
He's like, all right, geez, God.
Yeah. So then Lady Stark arrives, and Renly swears that the Lannisters will answer for Ned's murder, which I thought was interesting. And Catelyn has a really good line here, which shows her strength, too, where Loras is kind of picking at Robb and taunting him and asking if he's if he's tried to ride on Tywin yet. And Cat says, my son is fighting a war, not playing at one.
I love that line. I wrote that one down as well.
Yeah, it's a really good one. So Brienne, obviously asks to be elevated to Renly's Kingsguard. And it's like a Godfather type scene where it's like, on this, the day of my granddaughter's wedding, you can ask me any favor, and if it's in my power, I'll make it happen for you. And he's like, for whatever, like the honor of this tournament or whatever, he's like, anything in my power, I'll make it happen if you ask. And she's like, I want to be on your Kingsguard and pledge myself to you and to keep you safe no matter what. And he's like, fuck yeah, she's total badass.
He's like, sure.
Yeah, done. Like immediately. Another progressive
mad.
leader. Yeah, he's jelly. # jelly. Right? That's what Renly tells him too. He's like, you're just jealous. And he's like, yeah, he is.
Like, all right.
But yeah, there's our other progressive leader, putting a woman in a position of power. Renly with his female Kingsguard, which is pretty badass. And then
so deserving.
Yeah, and she immediately steps into the role as she's like accosting Lady Cat about her courtesies, like, that's your grace, or like whatever she says to him. And he's like, relax, Brienne. Like, it's okay. She's Lady Catelyn. We like her, no need to like be disrespectful. And
later she's like, I'll die for him if I have to. I'm like, whoa, how have we already gotten to this point, Brienne? Like, slow your roll. I get it.
Are we told about the significance of Renly to Brienne's history and her past in the TV show?
No, this was actually one of my questions. It was, why is Brienne so loyal to Renly?
Do you not remember from the books either?
I don't. I guess I don't.
Oh, excellent. Well, I will enlighten you and our audience then, because it's
I'm very excited about
fun little story.
You're welcome, audience.
Yeah. So Brienne is called the Beauty, right? And it's sort of mocking because she's not pretty.
Yes, I do. Now I remember.
Right. Okay. So there's.
I'm cool. I remember. I'm cool.
Yeah, so you can help me with this. Then there's something happening, and they're having guests on Tarth to visit her Lord Father, and Renly is one of the guests, and she's all nervous because she's supposed to like dance with him or whatever. It's for
Brienne to find a husband, I think, because she hasn't found a husband yet, and I think that he arranged like a party for all of the eligible men or something.
Yeah, and everybody's messing with Brienne. Like they're all trying to steal her maidenhead. It becomes a competition essentially, where these guys are being dicks to her and giving her false compliments and dancing with her to try to like, just try to use her.
And she was slow to realize it.
Yeah, and she didn't realize it. But Renly was, on this occasion, I don't think that was the same occasion as the Renly incident, but Renly shows up, and he's very respectful to Brienne, and treats her very nicely, and dances with her, and makes her feel like she's beautiful, and legitimately made her feel good, and was a good person, and there was no hidden motives with Renly. He was just a good guy, and he treated Brienne the way that she deserves to be treated. And after having been treated badly by so many other men in her life who taunt her with like the way Jaime treats her in in their little journey, she appreciates Renly for the kindness that he gave her, even though he's gay, and she knows there's no future together, but she just like feels like she owes him basically, and and he's like the man to her, like she idolizes him. So she's like all about like when this guy who treated her really well becomes king, in his own right, and she has an opportunity, having become a brutal warrior herself, to serve him and to pay him back for treating her as she deserved to be treated. Like, she jumps on the opportunity to be a part of his Kingsguard, and it's awesome. It's too bad that it plays out the way it does, you know?
Yeah, because it would have been nice.
Yeah, and she would have been able to protect him if it wasn't like a fucking demonic dark magic shadow baby. You know what I mean? A blood magic shadow baby.
With Stannis' face on it.
Yeah. So, yeah, but she ends up... I think that right off the bat, Catelyn has a respect for Brienne for obvious reasons, you know, that she's a strong woman, which is awesome. That, you know, she has her strength, and Catelyn has her womanly strength, as Brienne says it in a future episode or whatever. But I think that Brienne sort of reminds Catelyn of Arya, you know, as she tells her in this episode, "I'm no lady." And that's the way Arya is, right?
Catelyn liked that, right?
Yeah. So she sort of like sees Arya and sees Brienne as like everything Arya would ever imagine or dream of being is what Brienne is, right? Mm-hmm. So she obviously has to realize this and has an innate respect for Brienne right off the bat, I'm sure, even though they're on sort of opposing sides of this conflict at this point. But it's pretty cool, like, just seeing them paired together and imagining how Kat would react to Brienne having Arya as a daughter herself and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty cool. That wraps up my number 2. Should I just jump right into my number 1?
Yeah, because mine was Tyrion's trust game.
All right. So my number 1 relates to my usual top 5 featurette, which is the looming threat of the White Walkers. But in this case, it's Jon realizing that he actually just saw a White Walker. Mm-hmm. So, which is awesome. Craster crashes into his keep and flings down Jon. "Everybody out!" And he's all pissed. And Mormont's like, "Wait outside, Jon." And he's like, "Lord Commander." And he's like, "Just go!" You know? And goes outside. And he tells Lord Commander Mormont that, you know, Craster's killing the boys, that I followed him, and he's killing them, and he realizes that Mormont knew, like we said. Mormont's like, listen, dude, like, the wildlings serve crueler gods than you or I, and the boys are Craster's offerings. So he, like, legit knows in full detail what's going on here. Like, I'm pretty sure that Mormont knows that they're White Walkers that he's making the offerings to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fucking crazy. So, you know, Jon's like, "What the fuck, you knew?" And he basically points out that, like, we have a bigger war to fight, you know, and like it or not, we need guys like Craster, because they help us stay alive. Like, it's come down to life or death, death or Craster, you know, on various occasions with the Night's Watch. And
it's a terrible decision.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because in the moment it makes sense. Like, we need guys like that, obviously, but at the same time, if there were no guys like that, there would be no guys giving babies to the White Walkers. You know what I mean? To replenish the White Walker army.
Right, exactly.
So,
all you're doing is strengthening the other side, dude.
It's a double-edged sword, yeah. He helped us survive, but he also helped the White Walkers survive, which is fucked up. So in this moment, you know, he tells him, like it or not, we need men like Craster, and Jon's like, has a moment where things are sort of hitting him as he sits in silence there, and he's like, I saw it. I saw whatever it was that took the baby. And he's realizing, like, something is out there, you know, and Mormont tells him, whatever you saw, I dare say you'll see it again. You know, which is a super
Truer
ominous...
words never spoken.
Yeah, super ominous moment, and it's just really cool that, like I said last week, or one of these weeks, that Jon Snow is our first, like, main character who sees a White Walker. Which is hardcore. Super badass. So, you know, whatever you saw, I dare say you'll see it again. Ready the horses, we leave in the morning. And he hands Jon back the sword Longclaw and says, don't lose it again.
Yeah, really. And I don't even think Mormont realizes how valuable that sword is when it comes to those White Walkers. Yeah,
and to see the sword intentionally juxtaposed with the White Walker, making each of them significant to the plot in that moment. Both when Longclaw is taken and Jon sees the White Walker, and as he's talking about the White Walker and is given back Longclaw. And they're both being significant together, which insinuates that they are related in some way, which is cool.
Which we learn that they are in Hardhome.
Yeah, that's really good noticing there. Good job. Good observation. Anything in your notes you want to talk about? What about Sam and his mother's thimble?
It's funny that you say that because I was just about to say Sam.
Nice.
And really, it's really about Sam's bravery. He's called a coward so many times, but he's talking to Gilly. He's touching her. He's giving her a gift. These are things that
and not
he has
only
been
that,
warned of death.
Right, yeah, warned of death. And not only did he do that and go that far, but he tells her, I'm not giving it away. I'm giving it to you. Keep it safe for me until I come back. Like, he has plans to come back for her.
Right.
At that moment, I realized this watch through, he already has plans to come back and save her, which is wild.
And he's right. And he's just, I think that's there's being a brave warrior, but there's also Sam who's like, I'm going to do what's right.
Right.
I don't care what it costs me.
Right. And and whatever he feels is the right thing to do. And it's our first signal also that he is a serial, just violator of rules. Like, he doesn't give a fuck ever. He steals the family sword. He has sex even though he's a sworn brother. He steals his wildling wife, even though he's not even supposed to talk to her.
Yeah.
Constantly, he's just habitually breaking rules.
And last week you were talking about, how John took Ygritte, right? Ygritte.
And he said, "What are you just going to steal her about Gilly?" And he's going to steal her,
and he does steal her. So it is his wildling wife, and it's just everything that he has done has been for Gilly. That has been brazen or even on the edge of irresponsible. He does it because he knows it's right for her.
Yeah, she really empowers him big time,
and I think that's wonderful for him.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't talk about Maester Luwin.
There's really,
and
that's
Bran.
next for me too. We have a lot of stuff we really didn't talk about yet.
Yeah, and one of them is, it's funny because they're talking about Bran and his dreams and how he thinks they're true, and Maester Luwin is like, this is my Valyrian steel link, and I'm thinking to myself, melt it down, bitch, melt it down, make it a spear.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh, he's using his degree to claim that he knows everything, just like modern scholars in establishment academia. That when you say something that doesn't fit the grain, they're like, well, I have a PhD in this. But
you think to yourself, you didn't. Okay, so you got that link, but you didn't learn anything.
Right, but then to his credit, and I was like, immediately when he started saying, "Well, look at my Valyrian steel link. I've studied the occult knowledge and the mysteries of magic," but then he does go on to say that he tried all these studies and tried the magic stuff, and it just never worked for him or for 1,000 people before him.
Well, but then he says, magic was a mighty force, but the dragons are gone, the giants are dead, and the children of the forest are forgotten.
Right,
all three of those things are false.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too, the maesters and the citadels I really feel represent establishment academia, and they have had an active role in suppressing knowledge and influence in the elimination of magic, as they have apparently worked to kill the dragons in the past. There's a theory of maesters being involved with a conspiracy to kill the dragons and eliminate magic, and I feel like that there's a good parallel between, like I've said, academia in the real world with this suppressing knowledge and history and pushing a dogma in the textbooks and stuff that isn't necessarily accurate. And the maesters are wrong about everything here. Just like just
pretty
like
much
the textbooks.
Everybody's wrong about everything.
Yeah, just like the textbooks were wrong about Columbus discovering the Americas. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everything's wrong. Yeah. History is wrong. That's a good book.
History is wrong.
By Eric von Daniken.
He said to the history major.
Oh, we'd have some good conversations. I bet we'll have to talk behind the scenes about a lot of stuff.
One day.
Yeah.
With many beers.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed that whole scene. What else you got in your notes? Anything?
Those are really, as far as my notes go, we've pretty much touched on everything else. How about you?
Let's see. I thought Yara had a really funny line. Theon's like, I'm to fight fishermen? And she's like, watch out for their nets. Ooh. You know,
I did like that. Yeah.
That was a pretty funny line. Pretty much covers it. Shay is really inept. She's like, what, are you afraid your father will hear me? He's 300 miles away. You know, yelling, and Tyrion's like, he's got spies everywhere, bitch. There's spies everywhere. You're completely clueless.
The dumber she is, she keeps telling Tyrion, oh, I'm so stupid. And I'm sitting, yeah, you're really dumb, actually.
I have, right after she said that, I have written down Shay doesn't get it.
No.
It's just hilarious. Oh, man. So funny. And I liked her scene with Sansa as well, when she has no idea how to be a handmaiden, and she's lucky that it's Sansa, because anybody else would fire her and turn her in basically as an imposter probably. Mm-hmm. But Sansa is I thought Sophie Turner had a really strong performance here, as she's just super stressed out, cracking. You know, the cracks are showing everywhere as she's shaking and on the verge of tears, freaking out about
You know what I did? Yeah,
yes.
I wrote that down. I put that Sansa has nowhere to put her anger and her grief, so she just gives it all to Shay, and Shay takes it.
Yeah.
Shay doesn't want to be found out. Sansa doesn't know how to be a person right now, or who to be where and when. And I think that both of them, with the duality of what they're trying to accomplish,
really good to be around each other.
It fits very well.
Yeah.
They're dynamic.
We got Varys helping Tyrion, and that turned into a good duo. And the help that Varys gives Tyrion by putting Shay with Sansa creates another really good duo by providing a strong female influence for Sansa. There's occasions where Shay will tell Sansa to hide, and she has a knife on her leg, and pulls it out, and she's like, nobody's going to hurt me, and just another good influence for Sansa to be around in terms of being a strong woman. So that ends up working out really well, too. Pretty good noticing that, too.
I agree with you.
I think that pretty much wraps up my notes.
Me too.
All right, so we'll take a little break, and we'll be back with the news. And we're back with the news. And guess what? I'm going to start, since I started with the numbers today as well. Ha! Stealing your spotlight, Kristen.
Steal away.
All right, so our first item is an article by Hello Giggles, which I have never heard of. That's funny. And it is entitled, HBO probably just confirmed Game of Thrones isn't coming back till 2019. After months of speculation, it appears HBO has finally confirmed our dreaded news. Game of Thrones will return for its final season in 2019. The news shouldn't be too much of a shock, as Sophie Turner confirmed the date last week. Liam Cunningham alluded to it a few months ago, and even HBO programming president Casey Bloys couldn't promise a 2018 return date during the TCA press tour over the summer. But let's face it, there was definitely a small part of us that still hoped for a 2018 return. So now we must come to terms with the fact that we have at least another year, most likely a year and then some before Game of Thrones comes back into our lives. But HBO did break the news in the best way possible. No, Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke didn't take us out for drinks before sharing the heartbreaking news, and Cunningham didn't sit us down with a cup of tea. And while we wish Joe Dempsey broke the news by likening the absence of Game of Thrones to that time Gendry rode away for a little while, HBO's method was definitely up there. HBO released a preview of what's returning and premiering on the premium cable channel in 2018, and as you can see, Game of Thrones is nowhere to be found. But while our beloved Game of Thrones has rode away for a year and change, HBO is giving us a hell of a consolation prize through a lot of incredible programming in 2018. The trailer features glimpses of hot new series Succession, Here and Now, Barry, an original film Paterno, and documentaries on Andre the Giant, Arthur Miller, and Elvis Presley. It also highlights the return of HBO favorites like Insecure, Crashing, Divorce, Ballers, Last Week Tonight, and Westworld, which returns for Season 2 more than a year after its groundbreaking first season. The company also teased two of the most highly anticipated events of 2018, the HBO original film Fahrenheit 451.
What?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I love that book.
Yeah, I had to... this is going to sound fucked up, kind of. I had to read that in high school, so instead of reading it, I just sat in my car drinking vodka and listening to the audiobook.
In high school.
Yeah, that was cool. It's a really good book. And now,
it's a great book.
Yeah, and now I listen to the Game of Thrones audiobooks, so I guess that was preparing me for
foreshadowing.
That. Although I don't drink while I'm listening to them, yeah. I'm just not much of a drinker anymore. But Jean-Marc Vallée's limited series Sharp Objects, based on the novel by Gillian Flynn, is another of the two most highly anticipated events of 2018 for HBO. There are no words. Well, we only get one shot of Michael B. Jordan, Guy Montag, and Michael Shannon, Captain Beatty. It's all we need to know that Fahrenheit 451 is going to be an epic adaptation of the Ray Bradbury novel. Yeah, that's really exciting.
Can't wait.
Really exciting. Meanwhile, Sharp Object has arrived to fill the big little lies void in our lives. Amy Adams is gracing the small screen alongside Patricia Clarkson and Elizabeth Perkins in this 8-episode drama about a journalist returning to her small town to report on a series of murders. While we're devastated that Game of Thrones won't be back in 2018, we're so glad HBO is providing us with some incredible programming to ease the pain. And, Kristen, this makes me think that, since we're going to wrap up our series rewatch probably around next December or something like that, maybe shortly into 2019, whenever I haven't counted the number of episodes to when it exactly comes out to. Mm-hmm. But if we end up having time in between our rewatch and the premiering of 2019, we could cover some other Game of Thrones related stuff like the Dunk and Egg novellas or stuff like that.
Yes, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, or Kit Harington's new show that's going on a limited run this month.
Yeah, Gunsmoke, or no, what's it called?
I think that's right.
Whatever it is, yeah, we're definitely going to cover that too.
Whatever it's called, it sounds amazing because Kit Harington's in it.
Yeah, we'll cover an episode of that too.
I'm really happy that they're taking their time. I'm not upset about it. I don't.
Neither am I. I'm not at all.
Problem.
Same with George. I'm like,
get it
just
right.
Rolling with it.
Yeah,
get it right,
and give us something that
will go
you have
down
some hardcore fans.
Yeah, and it's bigger than even like the fans at this moment. This is something that's going to be like going down in the annals of history. So they need to make sure they nail it.
I totally agree. This
is like a milestone of literature and entertainment history. I believe. Playing a bigger role than people even realize at this time. But yeah, so that's the first item. Yo, wrap.
So our next item is another article by Hello Giggles. The Last Jedi filmed some scenes in King's Landing, and our favorite worlds are colliding. Today in OMG News, your favorite alternate realities are colliding. It turns out that Star Wars The Last Jedi filmed some scenes in King's Landing, and we are not equipped to handle this level of excitement on a Monday.
In a Westeros, far, far away.
Sorry. But you read that right. The Last Jedi filmed some scenes in an iconic location from HBO's Game of Thrones. The latest entry in the Star Wars franchise will introduce new audiences to new places it will introduce audiences.
Hold on,
into new
before you
places.
continue reading, you haven't read anything or watched anything about this.
Nothing.
So if you don't want to read any further and spoil yourself, that's completely fine.
Okay, I'm not going to read anymore.
I can read the rest of the article and come back in like 35 seconds.
You're amazing.
All right.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. Among these places is a casino city of Canto Bight, which Nerdist excitedly pointed out is not unlike the castles in King's Landing. Director Rian Johnson even confirmed that the whole high walls surrounding an opulent city thing was directly lifted from Dubrovnik, Croatia, which is literally where HBO films its King's Landing scenes in Game of Thrones. So basically, Dubrovnik's coastline is the nerd paradise of the future. That's fucking epic. And while it's not like The Last Jedi borrowed costumes or sets or anything from Game of Thrones, a brand new location was modeled after one of its most recognizable filming locations. There's no way this was an accident, right? Bless you, Rian Johnson. The Last Jedi and Game of Thrones news is just too wild to comprehend in a good way. Can you imagine Jon Snow fighting White Walkers with a lightsaber? Or how terrifying it would be if Cersei Lannister could use the Force? Honestly, fan fiction doesn't get this good. Well, actually, it totally does. But this is real. This happened. It's like the greatest, dorkiest Easter egg of all time. What's next? Rey shows up on Canto Bight in the TARDIS? Just kidding. Totally just kidding.
Okay.
Our next item is an article by TV Guide. Sean Bean's The Frankenstein Chronicles is coming to Netflix. What?
That'll be awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, I just had to let that sink in for a second.
I love Netflix.
Yeah. After dying so memorably and unexpectedly in the first season of Game of Thrones, sorry, spoiler, Sean Bean is coming.
Season 2.
Yeah. Sean Bean is coming back to the small screen in a series where he keeps his head and other people are the ones being decapitated and dismembered. Thank you very much. According to a report from Variety, Netflix has nabbed the U.S. distribution rights for Bean's The Frankenstein Chronicles, a UK-produced drama that reimagines Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as a supernatural crime drama. The series has been well received in the UK, so Netflix might have another hit on its hands. Set in 1830s London, Bean plays John Marlett, a war veteran and river policeman who's thrown into the supernatural world after taking on the case of a corpse made up of body parts from different children. Soon, John Marlett discovers the horrific crime is entangled in a web of demonic forces and powerful figures in the political establishment. The date for the Frankenstein Chronicles' arrival on the streaming service has not yet been announced, but Netflix's deal for the series includes the possibility of producing additional seasons if the show performs well. That's really exciting.
Dark.
Yeah, and our listener, Katrina Pedigo, is going to be really excited about that. I know she's a huge Frankenstein fan. So, yeah. Katrina, I bet you'll be stoked for that.
I'll watch it.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to check that out. It sounds epic. So that's it for news. We'll be right back with the Ravens calls.
Caw-caw.
It's a rooster raven.
Hello, this is Anthony. What's going on, damn microphones? Just want to call in and say, Duncan, your impressions are great. Do more Beavis and Butthead. And I also just wanted to say that, you know, with all these other great shows coming back, like The Walking Dead, Stranger Things and stuff, like, yeah, whatever, those shows are great and all, but whenever I see game microphones pop up in my podcast feed, all I can think of is, Thrones, yeah! Game of Thrones, yeah! Game of Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, yeah! Game of Thrones, yeah! Game of Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, Game of fucking Thrones, yeah! Game of fucking Thrones. Oh man, this shit just gives me so fucking hyped. Okay, well, can't wait to hear the next episode. Okay, bye.
Thanks for the message, dude.
Yeah. Anthony is like the kind of listener that we like.
Yeah. Anthony is cool.
Anthony rocks. Yeah.
Thanks for calling, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you, Anthony, for the awesome message. I guess I'll start this one too, since I'm just starting everything today.
It's nice. I appreciate it.
Matthew Rep says, R.I.P. Lamy. Yeah, fuck salami, bro. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate you. Appreciate your feedback.
Karen Farr says, you guys are amazing. Love that Kristen is now on every week. Aw, thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
Just finished last week's episode. I forgot how much I love Arya and Gendry. Hoping for a reunion in season 8. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Emoji.
Dave Halberg says, just a few thoughts about what is dead may never die. Jor Mormont is a big picture kind of guy, dealing with the devil he knows to help keep his men safe. Isn't that the truth? It turns out old Nan was pretty knowledgeable about the world around her. Everyone scoffed at all the old stories she used to tell the Stark kids, but her tales are factual. People warging into animals, the children of the forest, the others, and the White Walkers. Old Nan was a truth teller. That's a great point, and I agree. Pretty much everything that old Nan said, aside from the world being inside the eye of a giant, I think, pretty much everything else she said has been spot on. And,
I agree.
There's a couple characters like that in the story overall. There's old Nan, who's really spot on about a lot of stuff, and there's also
Osha,
true, and there's what's the old Barth, Septon Barth. That's who it is. And he wrote like Unnatural History, I think, and various other Westerosi publications. But everything that this guy says has been 100% spot on. Like everything that he says, and a lot of what he says is scoffed at by other scholars and maesters in the story. So if you decide to join us in the epic journey of reading the books or listening to the audiobooks over the long night before season 8 comes out, pay attention anytime you hear Septon Barth mentioned, because odds are it's something important and odds are it's true. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and if you do want audiobooks, I can still send free audiobooks to everybody. Unfortunately, at this point, the first book of the series, A Game of Thrones, is no longer available to give as a gift, probably because I gave away too many of it, and they want the later books to be given away, so people have to buy the first book, I imagine. But at least I can still give you one of the books for free, right?
You know, that makes sense since we're in season 2. We are now on Clash of Kings, so
yeah. Yep, totally.
makes sense that that's the book you give out now.
Yeah, although I can also give out 3, 4, and 5 as well. Or Duncan Egg novellas, or the World of Ice
History
and Fire.
of Westeros.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's Dave's feedback there. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you writing in every week.
Carolyn Grenier or Grenier?
Good
Caroline.
question. I would say Grenier. And I do believe she lives in French Canada, in Quebec.
Okay. On first watch, I didn't realize what Tyrion was making. On second watch, when I understood that he was giving a different name of a future husband for Myrcella to different people, I thought that was very intelligent of him to find out who was telling everything to his sister. Loved it.
Yes. Such a brilliant method, have a different leak different information to different people, so when it comes to the surface, you can tell which one told what.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant. So we have we were talking about the religious symbology and occult symbolism and stuff in the TV show over the past couple weeks, and you posted an awesome video, which I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet, but I'm sure it's awesome, where you posted a great video that
it explains all of the religions in Westeros and what exactly they are, to help the viewer kind of understand what exactly everybody was talking about when they talked about the Seven or the Old Gods or R'hllor and the Lord of Light. So it's just everything, and it was made actually in season 2. So it is everything that has been introduced up until season 2, which is very helpful when we have our discussions right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect timing. So you posted the video on our Facebook page, and our listener, Lady Alicia, responded saying, "Thank you so much for posting this video, Kristen. This helps explain so much. I never really understood all the religions and what they represent. And like you, I didn't catch the burning of the 7 idols on the beach in the season 2 premiere until this recent watch. GoM has a genius mind, and it amazes me how he came up with this whole GOT story. Or Grim, as you would say, right?
Grim.
Grim. We'll
He's
say
the
Grim. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Lady Alicia. I'm going to have to watch this video to learn everything that you guys know at this point. But yeah, it sounds really cool, so I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, it's explained actually by George R.R. Martin.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, which is
man.
why I loved it, because it came from, our
source.
god of Westeros.
Yeah, right from the source, right from the tap. Yeah, he's just next level. Yeah, he's totally next level.
Lara Willie Swink says, as someone who studied medieval art history in college, I definitely enjoyed this video and Martin's referencing of real-life medieval views on religion, informing and guiding the religions of A Song and Ice of Fire. The Children of the Forest religious inclination seems to be similar to those of the Gaelic and Anglican, thank you, natives and druids who worshipped nature and its non-human entities, the little folk.
Yes, and there's similar little folk in Hawaii, in Hawaiian religion as well. I can't remember what they're called, but I remember learning something about these little creatures that little tiny people that live in the forest. It's interesting. So I looked it up because I love you guys, and not many people know about this, and it's really cool. But in Hawaiian mythology, these little tiny people called the menehune are said to be little dwarf-sized people who live deep in the forests and hidden valleys of the Hawaiian Islands, far from the eyes of normal humans. They're said to have lived in Hawaii before settlers arrived from Polynesia many centuries ago, and are rumored to be a tiny pygmy race of people. But it's spelled Menehune, if anybody's interested in looking into that.
The faith of the 7 seems to stem from classical polytheistic religions such as Greek and Norse gods, and the Lord of Light aligns with the world of Judeo-Christian and Islamic monotheism. Of the 3 big faiths in Westeros, I think I'd have to sign up for the old gods. It seems the most benign at this point, not requiring blood sacrifices or zealot warriors of the faith, just a nice weirwood tree in the forest and your thoughts. So, zen.
Yeah, zen and living as one with nature and stuff like that. Yeah, I would have to agree. It's the most logical and symbiotic, it seems. We have an email from Archmaester Rennie, whose subject line was, "What is dead may never die. Well, until it does." Duncan and Kristen, some classic lines in this episode. They are the nights of summer, and winter is coming. Oh, I meant to mention that, too. Thank you so much, Rennie, for bringing that line up. What a great line, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments.
Catelyn says it so perfectly too.
Yeah, she has a couple great lines this episode, and she really nails that one. Rennie goes on to say, and Varys' riddle about power. Power resides where men believe it resides. And yeah, that is a great point too. I really do like that, the Knights of Summer line. And she's so right too, because the South, these guys grew up in a long summer. They have no idea how it gets. And yeah. And it's funny too, because this whole army, it's Renly's army, 100,000 men, right? Knights of Summer, winter's coming. Renly gets killed. These 100,000 men end up fighting for Stannis, and he takes them up north to the winter, right? So they end up actually really facing the winter. And
no, that's true. That's interesting.
And they get slaughtered.
Right. They were the Knights of Summer.
Yeah. So very prophetic line, unwittingly by Kat here, as this summer army is destroyed in winter conditions in very brutal fashion.
Wow, that's a great poll, Duncan. Great job.
Thanks. I noticed that watching the episode earlier, and I totally forgot to mention it in our breakdown. So, Rennie, Archmaester Rennie, thank you. she continues to say, of several great scenes in this episode, my favorite is Bran as Summer walking with Hodor to Bran's room, and then Bran waking up and he and Summer eyeballing each other. It's a great visual representation of Bran's relationship with Summer. It really is. I love that scene too. Yeah, we didn't really talk about the significance of Bran's warging and how he knows that Lewin is wrong, essentially, at that one scene. My other favorite is the introduction of Brienne, Loras, Marjorie, and Renly. Brienne knocks the piss out of Loras and asks to join Renly's Kingsguard. What a great introduction of her character. And my other favorite is the brilliantly orchestrated scene of Tyrion's scheme to ferret out Cersei's spy. I think this is Tyrion's best season, and I'm really enjoying his scenes in these episodes. All in all, one of the best episodes of this season, I think, and the rewatch is definitely enhanced by your podcast. I'm especially enjoying what you do at the end when you enact some lines from the shows. Thanks, Archmaester Rennie. Always great to hear from you.
Thanks. From Caroline Collins. Hi, Duncan and Kristen.
Hello.
Congrats. Hello. Congrats, Kristen, on the permanent hosting position. Well deserved, and I'm so excited to hear your amazing insights every week. That's very nice of you. Thank you. What an episode this week. I love to see my powerful ladies get introduced, and some come into their own this week. One of my favorite lines from Brienne, I'm no lady, goes contrary to this world of lords and ladies and makes her own path despite being born into privilege. I love Brienne's arch, and Gwendolyn Christie is just perfect in the role. Ugh, 100% agree with you.
Yeah, so perfect.
We also get to see Marjorie and Natalie Dormer's stunning performance. Right from the beginning, she shows how clever and calculating Marjorie can be. Yes. Finally, Yara, another powerful lady, breaking the mold and already very self-aware and confident. I have to say, at first, I was not such a big fan of the Iron Islands. It's portrayed in such a cold, unforgiving place, and a lot of the characters have little charisma. I had a hard time getting behind Theon's plan to change sides, although I understand his need for his father's acceptance. It wasn't until I read The World of Ice and Fire, learning the history of the Salt Throne and how the King's Smoots worked, that I became more intrigued. I still don't like Balon Greyjoy. Who does? But the Ironborn have grown on me.
Salty old bastard.
My final note is about Tyrion's awesome scene with the 3 wise men and their various responses. Quick note about Tyrion's choices of deception. I thought it was a coincidence that he tells Pycelle that Marcella is going to Dorne, where they specialize in poisons. Varys that she's betrothed to Theon, who will also become a eunuch. And finally, Littlefinger that she's going to the Vale, where Baelish will soon be acting lord.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
That's a really good catch. And very
Littlefinger is the only one who asks for anything in return for his silence, which I found was very telling.
Yes. I mentioned that sort of earlier too, but I don't think I articulated it that well.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
I love the adaptation of this scene, and I'm pretty sure this is where Tyrion wins Varys over. I love Varys' line, a small man can cast a large shadow.
Yes.
Many interpretations to this line, which I'm sure you'll discuss, as we did. Can't wait to hear it. All the best and happy holidays. Winter is here up in Boston.
Oh, man. Hey, shout out to Boston. I miss Boston. There are even more interpretations of that line than we discussed, too. A small man can cast a large shadow. It could refer to him casting a even huger shadow from the back of a dragon. You know what I mean? Like being up high, he could cast a massive shadow. There's just tons of ways that could be interpreted, and I'm drawing a blank right now for other ways.
That's okay.
Our next email, this is our Sir Pete's Conspiracy Corner.
It's one of my favorite parts of listener feedback.
Yeah. Hey, guys. So this is Sir Pete of Longwood. Hey, guys, I read somewhere that in the original draft, Varamir Sixskins was called Varamir Foreskins, the leader of a group of religious wildlings called the Moyles, hell-bent on circumcising the North. The helm must go uncloaked, they would cry as they raided villages of confused Gentiles, as they were called by Varamir's holy warriors. But George's editors had him rewrite the character to fit more appropriately into the narrative. Do you guys know if this is true? Yeah, it's totally true. Oh, love you guys. Love Sir Pete of Longwood, smoker of the dank.
I've grown to love you, Sir Pete.
Yes, theorizer
really
of
have.
the dank as well, as these theories are all super dank. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is totally true.
Very
The
sticky, icky.
foreskins. Thanks again for writing, Sir Pete.
Keep them coming, man.
Yes, sir. And we have another comment from Facebook. Owen Stovall says, for starters, you see where John's nobility is, much like his father's, a detriment to others. He witnesses Craster giving over his son to the White Walker. Craster catches him, he loses Longclaw in the skirmish, and gets his men kicked out of Craster's keep, a safe haven that the men of the Night's Watch depend on when going beyond the wall. We establish a basis for the relationship between Sam and Gilly. He gives her what looks like a sewing thimble that was the only thing he had of his mother's while at the wall. He says, I'm not giving it away, I'm giving it to you. Keep it safe until I come back, which means that Sam is planning on finding a way to come back and rescue her, which is ironic because he's still kind of a bitch. We see the first references to Bran warging into summer, sniffing fresh dirt, tasting a fresh kill. He notices that his dreams do come true, even though Maester Luwin tries to convince him otherwise. Luwin also says, dragons are gone, giants are dead, and the children of the forest are forgotten. He's wrong about all of these, despite what his chains say. Brienne of Tarth is a fucking beast. Fuck you, Loras. We witness Brienne of Tarth's unwavering dedication to whomever she is sworn to. Nobility has gotten some notable people killed. How will this work out for Brienne in the long run? What is dead may never die. The Greyjoy words. It makes me wonder if Theon was never really true to the words of Greyjoy. If he was raised as a Stark with Stark values. Maybe what is dead may never die is a reference to Theon's position as a Stark. He liked the Starks. He looked up to Robb and Ned. As much as he tries to deny it, the Starks were his family. I've got to go watch the new Star Wars movie. If you all need another voice on the podcast, let me know. Love listening to y'all. Thanks, Owen, for writing in. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm on board with everything you're saying there, except one little nitpick, which is the Greyjoy words are actually, we do not sow, and what is dead may never die is the religious motto type thing, like the words of their religion, but it's virtually, indistinguishable difference. Hope to hear from you again, brother. Thanks. Next, we have a voicemail from Sarah.
Hi, guys. This is Sarah. I just started catching up on the podcast and decided to join in with the rewatch. And can I just say how much I love seeing everybody look so young. I think the show really, really lucked out with getting so many good actors so young that have stuck to the show and just blown our minds with their performance. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with episode 4. First off, the two bromances that I love the most in this show are Bronn and Tyrion and Jon and Sam. And they both meet up in this episode. Like, we just see Bronn for a second, but it's like the beginning of a great friendship. And then my other main thing in this episode was seeing Dany stand up for herself and realize that her brother he's not the king that he thinks he should be, and that she actually could be the one to rule. And it's just, there's so much to come, and it's so exciting. I love listening to you guys. Can't wait to hear what you guys say about it.
Thanks so much for your message, Sarah. And I apologize that we didn't get the voicemail on the show sooner, on time for when you sent it. But I totally agree with everything you said there, and hope we'll hear back from you sometime soon. Glad you're enjoying the rewatch and the podcast, and thanks for sending your voicemail. Next, we have some messages from our awesome listener, Patrick. And while we were solving technical difficulties with the voicemail, we missed a bunch of voicemails. So Sarah's was one of those, and Patrick had left us a number of them too. So I figured since we had missed so many voicemails from people, and especially Patrick, that he deserved to have a good chunk of them heard here. So I put together like a few of the voicemails and gave him a good chunk of time here to get his thoughts out. So thanks so much for your patience with us, Patrick, and glad that we finally got your voicemails so we can get them out there for everybody.
Hello, this is your friend Patrick, and I am a few episodes behind, but so I don't know if you can actually use this input, but I kind of just need to get it off my chest. I don't know. I'm listening to your episode 50, review of The Pointy End. And there's just a couple things. I haven't even made it full way through. It's just going to burst through my sternum if I don't get it out of my system. Okay, so regarding Mr. Sirio Farrell's so-called death. Now you mentioned that that we haven't seen Arya, that his lesson about my eyes shouted the truth. We haven't seen that come into play. But we have. We saw it come into play immediately when he saw right through Maren Trant's bullshit. Because he was not watching, he was actually seeing. So then the other thing is, what was her name? Septa Mordain, the one who offered Sansa to touch her hair and died like a true badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you mentioned that her head was up on a pike. And I hadn't noticed that, but I find it interesting because do you ever see Sirio's head on a pike? Just saying.
Keep listening, buddy.
I mean, he established that he wasn't just some foreign scum. He was Sirio Farrell, first Sword of Bravos, and you will be treating me with more respect. Not only that, he also said, what do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
So you don't think he surrendered, ended up in the dungeon, took Jaqen H'ghar's face, ended up on that. You see where I'm going with this. Anyway, then the other thing that really kind of stood out to me, when you're talking about Robb coming up with his deception on the fly, just kind of improvising it, I think that really speaks to his nature in that he is not grounded by conviction. You know, somebody like what's his face, Tarly, Samuel's dad, he's unwavering in his conviction, and so he would think of warfare in a conventional way, and he wouldn't be able to come up with that because he was just like, he'd be like, this was the way things are, and it's a terrible impression, but his whole decision that he comes up with on the fly to sacrifice the 2,000 guys in order to deceive the Lannister forces is based on his lack of conviction. He's able he's mercurial. He's able to change his strategy quickly, and that's also what leads to his death ultimately, because he starts off doing one thing and then he ends up doing another. He makes a promise to somebody and then it's just like, well, actually, no, I found true love, so I gotta go with that. And that really speaks to his nature, and it's in line with the idea that all the Starks named their direwolves off based on what their future was going to be. And so Grey Wind, it's not black, it's not white, it's ephemeral like the wind. And yeah, I guess that's my whole point. Thanks, love the show, and hello again, this is Patrick, once again, still playing catch-up. Just finished listening to the Pointy End episode, and I just want to warn you, do not trust that spider. I mean it.
He's talking to you, Kristen.
So you might think he's starting to show his true intentions. He never shows his true intentions. I heard you say we've never heard him lie. You heard him lie. Trust me, you have. I don't even remember the lines, but he says things right to people's faces and lets you, in a voice that lets you know that he doesn't mean it because he doesn't want any little birds to hear him say anything. Regardless, okay, so in this scene when he's talking to Ned and giving him that whole, do I strike you as a hero, what's he doing? He's bringing him water in the dungeon. Okay, now this seems like a noble act, an act of kindness. What is the first thing that Mr. Ramsay Bolton is doing when we first meet him? He's bringing Theon water in a dungeon. Okay, and if you think, okay, that's, not really fair because we're comparing. Nobody's as sadistic as Ramsay. Let me just point out that there's an old man with a sewn shut mouth in a box in Varys' room. Presumably it's the guy who castrated him. That's what he claims. Who knows? You know what? Serial killers, a lot of them, perhaps Jack the Ripper, their dick didn't work, okay? They couldn't perform sexually, and so they started, getting off by killing people. Okay? And speaking of Jack the Ripper, he was mad because one prostitute gave him, syphilis. Yeah, so... Yeah, one prostitute gives
How
Jack
did we
the
get
Ripper
from
syphilis
Varys to Jack
and
the
a
Ripper?
whole bunch of different
I don't know. It's pretty cool, though.
He symbolically gets his revenge on just other people who remind him of the one who gets him. So, just saying, we don't even know that's the same old man, but I digress. He's bringing Ned water. What a kind guy. Now, he is manipulating. And so I've never heard this Blackfire theory about Varys, and I think I love it. But let me remind you of why the Blackfires aren't in Westeros, because they rebelled against the Targaryens. So he's not on Daenerys' side. Varys is not a friend of Targaryens. He is a evil spider with old man in his room with his mouth sewn shut, and he's bringing Ned water the same way that Ramsay brought Theon water. And Blackfires are not friends of Targaryens. They rebelled. There's this whole enmity thing there. Just saying. Alright, love the show. Bye.
Cut out for him.
Hey guys, it's your boy, Patrick. I think I might go with the pseudonym Sir Hindsight because I never seem to be caught up with the current episode that you're reviewing. Thought I was about 3 episodes behind, and I just realized I'm about 5 or 7. Anyway, I wanted to talk about something really important to me, which is Harrenhal, and the scene where we first meet Tywin Lannister, where he's taking apart the stag. Symbolism, by the way. But that scene is ridiculous because everything Tywin says is completely just ironic and foreshadowing, and the ironic foreshadowing that they like to do, and kind of throwing bombs in your face that you don't even notice because there's something really distracting in the foreground, like a big stag being dissected by this lion of a man. Anyway, anybody basically that tries to be lord or to take hold of Harrenhal, their family legacy just dies out. And I think it's really just funny because Tywin announces that he's going to go and stay at Harrenhal with the troops as he's talking about, a dynasty that could last 1,000 years and all that.
Brilliant point.
And I think it's really ironic. And the other thing is that if my theory is true, that Aerys is the father of Jaime and Cersei, which, god damn it, why don't more people realize that? But, yeah, he's also saying really juicy, ironic things like, you're a Lannister, and talking about Tyrion and blah, blah, blah. Because Tyrion's totally his only real offspring. And anyway, so just, I think it's really interesting to just note who has hold of Harrenhal during the run of the series, because we've had Tywin Lannister, we've had Roose Bolton, his line is already snuffed out, and we've had Gregor Clegane. I don't really see him as much of a Pater Fernelius. Anyway, I'm going to try and catch up and not leave so many late messages. I'm going to try. Oh, by the way, look for clues that Shay might be a faceless man. I'm not sure about that one, but I think it's worth noting.
What?
A faceless man?
Maybe she's been hired by the Iron Bank to snuff out Tywin. So I like the idea that maybe she was a plant by Tywin to keep an eye on Tyrion. I don't know. Hey, it's your boy, Sir Patrick of the Hindsight. Maybe I'll go with that name. I don't know. Anyway, I just want to talk about in one episode where somebody mentions that Rhaegar was the finest warrior of his land, except perhaps Arthur Dayne. And I just want to point out that, okay, so George R. R. Martin has stated that in a fight between Arthur Dayne and Barristan Selmy, that Arthur Dayne would win only so long as he had Dawn. Without Dawn, Barristan would win between the two.
Or it might be a draw.
So, that means that Barristan is the finest warrior technically. He's Batman. Dane is Superman, and if he had Kryptonite on a level playing field, he would be the best fighter.
There's certainly a strong case for that, especially
anyway,
when you think about Duskendale.
On the tournament at Harrenhal, where he gave the blue rose to Lyanna, Rhaegar had just defeated Barristan in combat and jousting, so that doesn't necessarily prove that he's better than Barristan for a couple of reasons, like jousting, the tournament. It's been discussed in the show. It's not the same as actual combat, and also
playing at war.
Yeah, exactly.
To Robert about you can't joust because nobody's gonna defeat you. But on the other hand, they were good friends, so I think Barristan would have fought with all of his might. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing is the painted table. Notice you never see that it's painted until season 7, and I think there is a reason for that. In the light of the fire, all you see really is just shadows and yellow light.
Cool.
You don't see the parts that are below sea level that are painted blue. Totally a reason for that, and I think it's to. Yeah, all right. That's a whole big can of worms that there's not room on this message for. So I'm going to try and hang up before it cuts me off again. All right. Love the show.
Oh, yeah.
He's like a man after your own heart. He is full of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. I feel bad that we missed his messages for so long, so at least we can do is make a big compilation of his voicemails now and get it out there.
Sarah Hindsight's Corner.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think he had a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I completely disagree with him about Varys, like 150%. But
I fall right in the middle. I don't know where to lean with Varys yet.
I maintain that he has one goal, and that is the good of the realm. I think that he's never strayed from that. Really?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Possible.
On the same token, that conversation that he had with Melisandre, where they were talking about how they had to die in Westeros, and it got really ominous, and he looked kind of scared.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Game of Thrones, man. There's twists everywhere. And
yeah. Definitely true.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get a Varys chapter before Grimm is done.
Oh, that would be crazy. I don't think we ever will, but that would be awesome.
I'd like to see Baelish, a chapter from Baelish when he dies.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like we get his point of view as he's being killed?
Yes.
Oh, that would be so freaking cool. Damn. And I guess at that point, it wouldn't be like he can give away too much.
Right, unless he has like some kind of thought that's just for the audience that will be played out in a different way later. I don't know.
That would be cool.
At this point, I just want another book.
Yeah, please. Cannot come soon enough.
Maybe that's why they're doing 2019, is Grimm has said, okay, I'll give you a book before the final season. I'll do it.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, these bastards. Toying with our hearts.
I agree.
Anything else you want to comment about Patrick's message there?
Patrick, you sound like you're always thinking as you're getting in and out of your car. I'd like to know if that's true.
Yeah. are standing by a walkway. I heard like a ding, ding. Oh, maybe that was from the keys.
Maybe I'd just like to know what, like, he's probably doing something. He's like, fuck, I gotta call in real quick. I have something to say. It's been on my mind.
I hope he's in a Lamborghini. That'd be awesome.
Yes. Okay. Sarah Patrick of hindsight. Thoughts from his Lamborghini.
I mean, it would make sense with a hindsight because he'd always be seeing us in his rearview mirror. Yeah, or maybe a De Tomaso Pantera. That'd be sweet.
Oh, see, now you've gone into a realm I don't know much of. So.
I figured pretty much nobody would know that car. That's why I said it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The hipster of cars, right?
Oh yeah.
Nobody knows about it, so it's cool.
It is pretty cool. You should look it up.
I like what he said about Rob. I like what he said about Syria.
Yeah. The gray wind, how he's like sort of ethereal and yeah, that was cool. I like that too.
If that's true, it doesn't bode well for John.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's already like the ghost of himself at this point,
Is he technically a ghost?
Yeah, because he's dead. He's like basically a ghost at this point. It's pretty badass.
Dead, and then there's undead, and does his heart still beat? And
yeah,
can he be killed by a white? Does he have to be killed with fire?
Oh my God, Danny would kill him then.
Can you imagine if someone tried to kill him and it didn't work, but unless like you used
fire,
dragon glass,
oh my God, that'd be so crazy. Maybe Danny will try to sacrifice him to forge Lightbringer, and she'll only be able to do it with like dragon fire or something.
Oh my gosh, I hope that does not happen.
He's gonna die though. He's not making it out of this. You know. Right?
Oh gosh, it hurts my heart.
There's no way that he lives. He's already dead. Like he's just on borrowed time. There's no way that he's meant to be like a player. Like once the game is done, you know that he's. There's no way.
Well, knowing that, I mean, if he is already dead, if he is already a ghost, can he have children?
I don't know. Maybe he could be cloned. But I don't think they have that technology.
I think Qyburn could do it. If anybody could do it, it's Qyburn.
Oh yeah, Qyburn's Candy Corner. Yeah, Qyburn could definitely do it.
He's like, you know what? I think I could do it. Hang on.
He'll cut off John's arm and put it in a hydroponic solution, and it'll just like sprout the rest of his body. He can just keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah,
it's just an army of Jon Snows.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. I love it. That's the end, and that's the end. Is Qyburn churning out a little assembly line of Jon Snows, and he cuts off the newest Jon Snow's arm every time.
Oh, so. For a new one. Oh my God. Or man, you could cut off each of his toes, and you could do it 10 times as fast.
Oh yeah, but then what happens if you like cut off the pinky toe and then you get like a deformed version or something? Then you got to throw it out.
Yeah. This is a strange conversation.
Yeah, we've gone to a different
way off reservation. All right, that's our show, episode 55. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, and as always, thank you so much to Lisa Moreno and Lara Willie Swink for gathering Ravens calls and news. You're a huge help every week, and we really appreciate it very, 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 very much.
It is true. We do. Thanks for helping us. Next episode, we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 5, Garden of Bones, which is a really cool name, man. I like that name a lot. It sounds super...
New band name, I call it.
Yes. Damn you. It's better be a metal band, at least.
Nope, it's going all acoustic and all folk, and my title track is going to be Duncan.
The Garden of Bones in the backyard. Okay. So yeah, that'll be fun. Give Garden of Bones a watch and send us your thoughts. We'd love to read them on the air, and I'll try to post a feedback post earlier this week. I sort of spaced out and didn't do it until Monday this week, so I'll post it over the weekend so you guys have plenty of time to add your feedback to our post on Facebook.
We love the feedback, so bring it.
Yeah.
Even if you just want to say hi, tell us what you're up to. That's cool.
Where are you from? We'd love to know where you guys are from, who's listening, what you guys think about the shows, anything, just whatever you feel like talking about.
You want to talk about dragons? We could talk about dragons.
Yeah, or economics. If you'd like to call, you can always call us at 813-563-3739. That's 813-JOFFREY.
If you'd like to write in, you can email us at game@podcastica.com.
Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/GOM podcast.
And give us a review. And be sure to check out the other great podcasts at podcastica.com, like the upcoming Westworld podcast that will be coming up soon enough, and the new Ash vs. Evil Dead podcast that will be starting back up as season 2 gets started. Season 2, right?
Yeah,
had one
of Westworld,
season?
yeah. And Strange Indeed is still going too as they wrap up the new season of Stranger Things. So hop on that. And our co-host Travis has a new podcast called The Great Heathen Podcast covering Vikings. So yeah, you guys should check that one out too.
And for you comic book people, please check out Mr. Blog's podcast, Under the Comic Covers, with Gracie Lou.
Indeed. Yeah, we are a big, happy Podcastica family, and we want to spread the word that we are here. We are the fun source for reviewing your TV shows, your favorite shows. Some places are, they can be uptight and serious with their podcasts, and while we're serious, we also try to make it fun, and that's the Podcastica brand. That's what we're going for. So,
we love to include you, the listeners, which
absolutely
is super fun.
That's like the most fun part for me is like listener feedback and hearing from everybody. So yeah.
Well, we were both listeners.
Yeah, even before
at one time.
Before we were on the shows, we were definitely listeners. If you want to help us, spread the word and everything like that, giving us a like on Facebook is a great way to do it, and an even better way is giving us a review on iTunes. That'll help us, bump us up in the search for Game of Thrones podcast, because we don't even show up right now. It's crazily enough if you search for Game of Thrones, at least on the podcast app on iPhones, which is kind of bogus, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So if we can get some more iTunes reviews and ratings, maybe we can start an incentive program, and we can do some fun stuff on the podcast to incentivize all of you to leave your ratings and reviews.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. We could come up with some sort of incentives, some sort of prizes or something maybe too.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah,
and
that'd be really cool.
Maybe there's a Dothraki scream somewhere in the future.
Yes. Yeah, Kristen has a legendary Dothraki scream.
Legendary.
Yeah. Yep.
It's legendary.
So legendary. So yeah, we'll figure out something. But for now, that is our show, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
I pity them.
Why?
Because it won't last. Because they are the nights of summer and winter is coming. It's I know. I drink a whole bottle of whiskey and I came on the show.
It's talking like this, but who really cares about it anyway?
And that's the end. It's Qyburn churning out a little assembly line of Jon Snow's, and he cuts off the newest Jon Snow's arm every time.
Oh.
So